Now back to the show. This is The Law Show on CL 650.
I am your family tree. I know your A to Z. This is a secret proposition. Lay your hands on me.
And welcome to The Law Show. We're talking about family law. David Halkett, partner at McQuarrie Hunter in Surrey, along with Sarah Morse, associate at McQuarrie Hunter, joining me in studio. I've had a hard time saying Morse associate, but I got it right this time. So you're in Surrey. You're in Surrey Central Tower. Is that what it's called?
It's a tower, yeah.
Right.
It's Central City is what it's actually called.
Okay. And that's with a great view.
It is. Sarah and I have a great view out to the airport, and we can almost see your office from our...
Can you see all the planes coming in?
I do.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So it's not worth visiting for the view, but if you have to go, you know that there is a good view. All right. So we're talking about dividing assets, and a big one is a pension. So I'm sure a lot of people listening don't realize that if you work for Toronto Dominion Bank or Royal Bank or whatever it is, your pension with the bank is very different than somebody who is a school teacher or a nurse, because you are federally, just like broadcasting is federally regulated, but nobody in radio has a pension.
Yeah.
It just doesn't exist. But if you're under a federally regulated, if you work for in transportation, that's federally regulated, broadcasting, shipping, banking, railroads, all that stuff, right? So how is it different when it comes to dividing it?
Well, the same basic principles apply in that it's based on half of what you accumulated during the relationship, except you don't go under our local legislation. You have to look at the federal statutes. And
so do you have to have special requirements as a lawyer to be able to work with the federal law? No,
because it's all done provincially in our courts here anyway.
Oh, I
see.
Just
the federal statute applies.
Okay.
And the difficult part with the federal pensions is that each area may have a different pension form itself. So if you're dealing, say, with Air Canada, they have their own pensions.
Well, they have all of the legacy from Canadian, right?
Exactly. So if you're a client worked for Canadian or Pacific Western, which joined up with Canadian then merged, you could be dealing with a real merged weird pension. Pilots have their own special one. So that's above and beyond. TELUS.
Well, there's a joke about pilots who fly 747s. You know why there's a big bump on the top of a 747?
Their pension.
It's so they can sit on their wallet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The funny thing is, no airline in Canada flies 747s anymore, so I can make that joke.
Exactly. Yeah. And so the TELUS is like that as well, because it's federally telecommunications.
Broadcasting communications, yeah.
So, you may have a normal TELUS employee, like a general employee. They have one pension. But if they're management, they have a separate pension.
Why would that be?
Well, they have their basic one plus the additional one. Above and beyond. So you always have to remember when you're looking at this as a lawyer or as a client coming in to inform us what actual pensions you have. Because if you're the wife of, say, an executive at TELUS, you may come in and say he has a TELUS pension. But if he's higher up, he actually has two. So you have to make sure both are divided, or else, you're losing out yourself. And then, of course, as the lawyer, we're like, okay, we're in big trouble now, and we'll call our insurers, so to speak, right? So
will people maybe hide that and say, oh, I've got a pension with TELUS, but they don't divulge they've got a second pension with TELUS?
Well, that's where the disclosure comes in that Sarah talked about earlier, in that we get them to provide us their documentation that they receive from the pension. And often on there, it'll tell us two different areas. And we have other contacts as well in the legal profession who deal with pensions as lawyers. And if we have any questions on what kind of pension is, we can get the advice from them as well.
So when you get a pension and you say, okay, I've put in $75,000 over my working career, and but I'm going to get a different amount back. Well, who decides that amount? And who do you turn to? It's not Ghostbusters. Who do you ask when it's time to find that out? Like, who do you call?
The pension benefits provider.
Yeah.
Typically, we will go directly to the source or have the client contact their pension benefits provider, and they can get a statement. And they should be getting yearly statements anyways, summing up their contributions. Or you can go to a company and get the pension actually valued. Because if you are using it to trade off against something else, as David mentioned earlier, sometimes someone will want to keep that pension and instead deal with current income stream. but you might have to trade that off against something else. So to do that, you have to know what you're dealing with. So you need to know how much that pension is worth. So you may have to go and actually get it valued, and we can't do that.
Most people receive a yearly statement, certainly when they're the superannuation, our provincial teachers, firefighters pension. They get a superannuation statement every year, their pension statement, and it tells them what they would receive from whatever age based on what they've worked so far. So it may say if you retired now or didn't work any further and you retired at 55, you get $1,800 a month.
Sure.
So it gives us a little idea what it is.
But what about things like benefits? Because that is worth something.
Yeah.
Like eyeglasses and dental and those sorts of things.
It's not always part of the pension. That's maybe their benefits as part of the plan.
But as the spouse, you would have benefited from that, right?
Yeah, and you're often on their benefits. Each union is different because some may say the minute you're separated, we have to cut you off. Longshoremen are like that.
Because they don't want to pay, right?
Exactly. The minute they find out that you're separated, they want to cut the spouse off on the benefits. So what we often tell our clients is, as part of a settlement, is keep them on as long as they can. They can use whatever the spouse can use to get her eyeglasses, his eyeglasses, whatever, as quickly as you can. And then when they're removed, once the divorce goes through, children get to stay on, usually indefinitely, on the plan. In terms of the benefits can often end up being, again, a support issue down the road. If you don't have any and the other person has them, it may be that you can get, look, I need glasses. I'm not covered anymore. And it may be a support issue as well.
And we'll often write that into agreements. So if someone is, say, self-employed or doesn't have benefits with their job and the other party has full extended health benefits with their employer, we'll write that into an order or an agreement that they'll keep them on benefits, they'll cover the cost, or they can even split the cost because they have that available. And the cost of, say, 3 people versus 4, there usually isn't any difference in cost. It's when you go for a couple to 3. Yeah. So it's usually cost effective if you can agree to do it that way, where the one person keeps them covered. Yeah, if it's possible. Sometimes it just isn't because
I was going to say, is that legal to say somebody is still going to be on your benefits when you're really not having anything to do with them?
So what we do is we say,
sounds could be a little tricky. Right?
Yeah, what we say is they will keep the spouse on as long as possible under the plan. So then it's assumed that they're going to go and tell the plan that they have the issue. That's usually not our job to go and tell the plan. And it's up to them to inform them. And then the plan leaves you on as long as they can. A lot of plans leave you a bit of grace, like, 6 months after divorce or something like that. So
which pension that comes across your desk is the one you least like to work with?
Air Canada.
Why Air Canada?
It's a difficult one to deal with because of the Canadian, Pacific Western, all the mergers.
Wasn't there Ward Air in there too? Or?
Yeah, I think Ward Air is that was in there as well. So it's all the mergers that have caused a lot of difficulty, and there's been cutbacks on pensions in the past. There's been cutbacks and everything. So that's one that definitely, when it comes across, they also require specific wording on how it's divided. So often when that happens, Sarah and I will contact this other lawyer we know who loves to deal with pensions. His whole practice is dealing with pensions. And then we get him to assist us in making sure that the wording is perfect for Air Canada, because if it's not, they'll just keep rejecting it, and then you don't get the division.
So it's cheaper to hire an expert for that specific problem, right?
Exactly. And we also have a lot of valuators of pensions who won't touch an Air Canada pension to value it. So it's often what you're doing with them is you're sending it off to the office, and the Air Canada office or the federal one will tell you what the pension is worth. Whereas our local ones don't tell you the value. That's up to you to figure out. Federal offices usually tell you.
Now, in the unfortunate instance where you have decided and separated on the value of a pension, but the pension evaporates, I'm thinking Eaton's, for example, or Northern Nortel. There's a lot of people that got really ripped off with their pensions. What happens then? Is it just hard luck?
Yeah, basically that, if it's been divided at source and both parties taken their half, that's the risk you're both taking. The person that gets burned in that would be if I kept my pension and I gave up the house, that was the deal you made, then you're basically screwed.
There's no recourse.
No, that's it. The only thing that would kick in might be on an issue of support if there was necessary down the road. But it would seem to me that if you made a deal and it fell through because the pension dried up, that's just something that's on you, so to speak.
It's like if property values went down, same sort of thing. You can't anticipate that. So you make the deal that you make.
Okay, I'll throw one way out at you. Is any recourse to go back and say, I didn't get the best deal I could. I really made some bad mistakes. I really wish I could do things a different way. Can you unwind some of these deals?
You can in specific instances, such as there was non-disclosure.
Yeah.
So if a party was hiding stuff back, it wasn't disclosing, or if you didn't get proper legal advice, either you signed it because you didn't want to get a lawyer, or the lawyer didn't give you proper advice, you can get out of them. Although usually you also have to show that the deal was unfair. So and equitable doesn't necessarily mean equal. You know, something can be equitable and one gets 52 to 48 if it all works out, if there's other things in the deal. So the court looks at the deal overall in that regard.
But just because somebody made a bad decision and agreed to something that they later regret doesn't mean you can go back and ask for a change.
No, exactly. And I've told clients that before. We're at a settlement meeting and they're not sure. And they say, well, I guess I'll agree to it. I said, no, don't agree to it unless you're absolutely sure, because Sarah's probably had it too. I make a deal, on a Sunday night, it's a trial starting the next day. We make a deal, we work it out. And I get the phone call at 10 o'clock. Oh, I don't like that deal. It's like, well, sorry, we spoke to the order. It's too late, right? And so, you can't just get out of it just because you change your mind. And there's always the buyer's remorse. Yeah. But,
coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Exactly. But if you had advice and you knew what you were getting into, like I tell my clients, a lot of them, I said, look, I don't think you should sign this deal. I don't think it's fair. Someone comes in for ILA, independent legal advice. But you're an adult. As long as you know what you're entitled to and you sign it, then, you may be stuck with it.
Even on the advice of your lawyer, you still go ahead and do it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it happens all the time. We have a lot of people coming in to see us for independent legal advice, and our job is to tell them, okay, this is your situation. This is what you could get. This is what you're giving up. You've been fully informed. If you choose to make that deal, you're choosing to make that deal.
But then the cat comes into play. And we'll find out about that next on CL 650.
There's more of the show still ahead. This is The Law Show on CL 650.